Welcome to episode 12. Tonight, I'm here by myself. I'm usually in the studio with two other guys that run the show with me. But tonight is a very special episode. It's near and dear to me. Um, it's an interview. It's a one-on-one interview. I requested this one for quite some time. Long time in the making. I preface this episode by saying you're going to hear from a good guy, a good teammate, a good father, a great husband. I've known this gentleman for 20 plus years. That's how way back we go. We go way back, so far back that we understood the internet in its infancy stages when we were in school. Yes, we were old. But, I packaged that in saying that he is a day one of mine. I respect him. I love him. And I love his family. And I respect him so much. So, let's welcome Jeff Brickus.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jeff, I know you don't say a lot. I know you say a lot to me. I know not a lot in the public. I know you like to be low key, so such as myself. But I want you to kind of, open up, peel the curtain back, let people know who you are and where it all started and where it's trending now. It's on you.
For sure. So, coming from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, very small town right outside of Philadelphia. Not much going on there. Normal inner city things, violence, drugs, things of that nature. Basketball was my way out. Thankful for having that to guide me and get me out of that area. So basketball took me to college, where we met. And you said 20 plus years. I didn't realize we've been out of school that long. That's
mm-hmm. Back in 2000, right when Y2K started.
Basketball took me to school, and then from there, got into education. From there, moved to Baltimore, Maryland. Taught in Baltimore, Maryland for about 10 years. Then, my family and I, we took that leap of faith, and we started teaching. We moved abroad. And we started teaching abroad. My wife and I are both teachers abroad.
Nice.
Started in China as a teacher. Then from China, we moved to Egypt, where I became a principal there in Egypt. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Myanmar, and now we're currently in Guatemala, where I'm the elementary principal in
Awesome.
Guatemala. Mm-hmm.
Great. So it seems like you have moved around and that dynamic, because I know me knowing who you are and, for all these years, and I know you do have kids, and I was in your wedding. So I do know that, it's a lot. I know for you, change, you accept it, but I know it can be a little temperamental for you at times. So how were you able to adapt moving from the States to moving abroad?
Oh man, it was tough. Like you said, I got a very tight-knit circle. I don't speak to too many people. I don't do too many things. Mm-hmm. I had to kind of come out of my shell, especially being an administrator, working with brand new people every 3 to 4 years, moving around from country to country. I really had to come out of my shell. Had to speak up a little bit more, interact with people a little bit more, which is definitely out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But I felt like this experience has helped me grow, both personally and academically.
No, that's definitely good, because as the years go on, we have to expand and evolve. So, those are definitely great attributes, especially for you, because you're in the educational system. Mm-hmm. So a lot of, building relationships and, transitional stages and things like that. I think not a lot of people have it. Not a lot of people want to learn those traits. So, I envy that you adapted to that skill set. So how would you say your professional life, like what are some key factors in your professional life that you have seen? What are some highlights and what are some lowlights?
Ooh. Starting off, it was pretty much all low, to be honest with you. Started teaching in Baltimore County, and being a black male, they always throw you in the toughest schools with the
Mm-hmm.
toughest kids.
Right.
They always throw the toughest kids in your classroom, which means you're dealing with the toughest parents.
Mm-hmm.
Which was that part was tough because I mean I grew up like some of these kids that I was
Right.
teaching in Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of knew what they were going through. I knew what their family life was like,
Right.
but it didn't make it any easier because I mean it was just tough, and the school system just wasn't built to provide and support for those type of kids.
Right.
So that was hard, which kind of prompted me to move overseas because I was just super frustrated with the system in the States and how we were trying to educate, young black kids and the curriculum and the content that we were trying to provide. I mean, a lot of it was just useless
Right.
for those kids in the inner city. So that kind of prompted me to move overseas. And overseas has been great, to be honest.
Right.
You can save a lot more money. Travel opportunities are insane. Like my kids are what, 14 and 11, and
Mm-hmm.
they've probably been to over 30 different countries.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have my passport till I was in college,
Wow.
and my kids have been traveling since they was 2 and 5 years old. So it's opened up a whole world of opportunities for not only myself but for my kids as well.
Right. Speaking of your kids, I know they are your pride and joy. I know when you got married, one was on the way. The second one I haven't met, but I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to at some point down the line.
Mhm.
Um, how are they adapting? Because like you said, you did so much moving around as far as overseas. I know obviously it has its, beauty of it, but there's also, it's a lot of work to uproot a family and just get finances and just life all in general together. So how did you guys get acclimated to all that?
For sure, it was tough. I mean, my son was only 2 when we first moved to China.
Hmm.
I mean, he could barely talk, and then we get to China and they're speaking a whole different language.
Right.
Um, but as time has gone, they've gotten used to it. They've adjusted. My son is a lot more easygoing than my daughter,
Okay.
so it's been so much easier for him. I mean, every country we've gone to, he's had tons and tons of friends. He's been involved in all the sports in every country we've been to.
Mhm.
For my daughter, it's been a little bit tougher. She's more like me, more reserved, more shy, more laid back.
Okay.
Um, so she's not as outgoing and in your face and making new friends. So it's been a little tougher on her.
Mhm.
But like myself, she's come out of her shell a little bit. So she's been able to adjust and adapt. And that's kind of the great thing about this is that, you know, my kids get to experience all these different cultures and all these different people.
Right.
And they take little bits from each place we've been and kind of, incorporate it into their own life and how they think and how they behave, how they act, things like that.
Yeah. So just to harp on more of your kids and stuff, and because we're not old, it's just a number thing. I think people get fascinated with that kind of nonsense, but
Mhm.
we know what it is. You had kids fairly early,
Mhm.
and I give you credit because now as you see the climate with people talking about relationships constantly and everyone putting their 2 cents, you being you know, me knowing you, but you being the guy that you are and your upbringing, like what propelled you to like keep it together? Because, we're not really taught or made or like viewed to keep families together.
Mhm.
Um, and it's hard, but like when you see it, it's like almost unbelievable.
Mhm.
And people kind of want to make their own drama, their own storyline about it. So how are you able to like keep that all together intact?
Well, it was a little different for me because, growing up where I grew up, most of
Hmm.
my friends didn't have a two-parent household.
Right.
But I was one of those lucky ones where my mom and dad stayed together and they stayed married. Still happily married, 40 years strong.
Awesome.
Salute to them. But yeah, just having that foundation back home, just modeling after my parents and, taking my dad's advice and things of that nature. So just having that family support, and like my wife as well comes from a 2-parent household.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been able to see examples of how to make things work,
Right.
and also, even though our parents are still married, seeing what they do that doesn't necessarily work for us, and
Right.
kind of avoid those situations.
Awesome. So, also to touch on that, like, I know, you are a married man.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? Because I think people say it, but, they don't really understand. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. They
Yeah.
see, they see, they see you guys walking hand in hand. They see, I guess, the, pseudo glitz and glamour, but they don't understand like the work that goes behind it. Like, I know a little bit because I
Mm-hmm.
know both of you guys respectively, but I don't think, people who aren't like in it really know or understand.
It's funny you say that, because when we first started dating right out of college,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we would always say is, you know what, if it ever gets too hard, it's not worth it. It
Right.
should just be easy. It should just flow. And man, was we wrong, because marriage is hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
It's hard. And I mean, it just doesn't seem natural to, tie yourself to one person for the rest of your life and
Right.
not interact with another female or male in an inappropriate way. I mean, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard. And I don't want to get myself in trouble or anything, but in an education field that's
Right.
dominated by women, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. But, trust in one another, talking things out, and just kind of understanding that, what, we signed up for this life thing, and, there's nothing too hard or too great that we can't overcome, and just
Awesome.
trying to stay on the same page.
Right. So, with that being said, how do you two create balance? Because I know that is definitely more than challenging,
Mm-hmm.
even like dating or, let alone marriage. So,
Mm-hmm.
what does balance look like to you?
Yeah, it's putting us first, putting us before the kids. We said that from day one. We still have date nights every Friday night. We go out, just me and her,
Mm-hmm.
dinner, movie, drinks, or bowling, whatever. Every summer we take a vacation, just me and her. We leave the kids behind. So it's about making time for each other and making sure we put each other first.
Awesome. Yeah. It's definitely, it's good to hear that you still have like the traditional values.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard, like I stated before, the climate that we're in, everybody's just like right, left, right, left, right, left. And, you know, I don't want to say we've gotten into gender roles or anything like that, but it's definitely been a big swing of the pendulum as far
Mm-hmm.
as like, we have the independent woman and then you have the simp and, that whole rhetoric going around. So like,
Not only that, people are so quick to jump ship.
yes,
Don't go their way. I mean, I've been in all these different countries. I mean, the divorce rate is high everywhere in the world.
yeah,
Everywhere. It's not just in the States or Latin America or Africa.
hmm
It's all over. It's just people are just super quick to jump ship when things don't go their way.
But do you see like do you have like a different view as far as like how people conduct themselves as far as like couples? Because I shouldn't say I feel like married couples stay with married couples because obviously you have single friends
Mm-hmm.
and, she has single friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that dynamic look like for you guys? Or like, how do you guys view it in each stop? Because it's interesting. You're not in the US. You're cross seas and you've seen your better share of countries and how like cultures and, how everyone conducts themselves, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. I mean, we hang with married couples.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with her going out with her friends who are single. she feels the same way. I mean, we were in Egypt. I sent her to Greece for her birthday with her
Nice.
friends who were single. I mean, it's about trust and just allowing each other to have their space and just knowing that we in it together. And I mean, we have one goal,
Right.
to maintain this marriage, this relationship, and stick it out, and make it work.
Right. Does it ever get contentious between you two?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. I mean, nothing's perfect.
Yeah. Well, good. We're definitely. I know. I wouldn't depict you guys as the Brady Bunch, but I know.
Absolutely, absolutely not. I
Yeah.
mean, there's been some drag out. I mean, not physical, but
Yeah.
words being exchanged and
Of course.
heated, and leaving and coming back late. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
nobody's perfect, but and like I said, at the end of the day, we had one main goal.
Yeah. I know. Again, I'm not going to stress enough how deep I know you. I know you very well.
Hmm.
I've spent weekends at your family's house and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I just wanted to touch on it because I know for you, you're very private, and I'm probably one of few people that probably can get certain answers out of you. How is the dynamic with you and your eldest son?
You know what? It was always good, um, and like I mean,
Hmm.
things were not great between me and his mom, and
Yep.
how that whole situation panned out.
Right.
Um, but we've always been good. Things have happened. People have done certain things. They try to put us against each other to cause bad feelings. But we're very similar in that we don't let outside noise
Mhm.
affect how we feel about people or things or situations. So we've always been good. We still talk.
Okay.
We definitely still keep in contact for sure. But yeah, we'll always be good.
No, awesome. I'm happy to hear that because I saw him. I know he's on social media just like all these other kids, and I
Mhm.
know he was doing big things. I know he just completed his last year of high school. I believe it was last year, right? Last
Mhm.
year was his. So, and I just to see him grow because again, I was there from the beginning. I was there when he came to my townhouse running around
Oh, I remember.
in
Oh, I remember.
diapers.
Oh
and
man.
and we would chase this kid literally around the house because he had that much energy and he just didn't want to sit his ass down.
Hmm. But
Um,
it's funny because he just graduated high school,
mhm,
and I mean, to me, he was more talented than me in basketball.
yeah,
Um, but his mind just wasn't right, and it kind of hurt me when he graduated high school because he didn't want to go to school and play ball,
yeah,
um, which was kind of soul crushing because I knew he had so much potential.
yeah,
Not only that, Kutztown was looking to bring him in, so that was even more sentimental.
yeah,
So when he decided to take a different route, it hurt for a while.
yeah,
And to be honest, we didn't talk much after that happened
right,
because I was just frustrated. But I realized that what, this is his life, is his path.
hmm,
He has to live with the decisions he makes,
yeah,
and ultimately, I mean, you just got to support whatever it is that they want to do. So
yeah,
I got over it, but it's still a little soul crushing just to think about it.
yeah. I can imagine because that was your mirror.
Hmm.
Anytime just remember him growing up, and even during your wedding, anytime he ran around, I was like, "Oh boy, he's going, he's the next one up." Um,
Yeah, he was.
yeah, and his last year they had a pretty good team. I even up here in the New York area, I would still pay attention. I still kept tabs on him, just
Yeah, no,
because I was like,
he did pretty decent senior year.
mhm,
Team didn't do that well, but he
mhm,
did pretty decent.
good, good. So I know you have two younger brothers. I also know them.
Hmm.
So, talk about that. Like, what was that growing up? And also, one went to school with us. The
Yeah.
other one wasn't too far. He's maybe 10 minutes away. He
Hmm.
went to school in Alvernia.
Right.
So, how did that dynamic work because you guys are all boys, and
Yeah,
and you guys used to wreck shop in Coatesville, from what
man.
I was told and what I understand last time I remember. So talk a
No,
little bit about that.
no, that was that was the easy part.
Hmm.
That was easy for us growing up. I mean, we're all 1 year apart. It's 40, 39, 38.
Hmm.
So it was easy. You saw one, you saw the other two. So I mean, we were always together. We always
Hmm.
dressed alike, not by choice. That was definitely forced by our parents. Growing up, we all had the same outfits. I hated that. But no, that was easy. So when I went to school, coach was like, "Look, we got another spot. What do you think about me bringing your brother in?" I'm like, "Cool. I mean, no hard feelings there. It was easy. I mean, I knew his game. He knew my game.
Hmm.
So that was just an easy transition. He actually recruited my younger brother too.
Hmm.
Um, but he's different. He got a mind of his own. He don't. He follows his own beat.
Yeah.
So he was like, "No, y'all got too many guards. I'm trying to go play right away.
Hmm.
I ain't sitting behind my brothers." So that's why he ended up in Alvernia. But no, that was easy. That was
No,
easy.
no, that's dope because I remember you guys coming up because I remember when we met, we used to get on each other's last goddamn nerves because you were such a Allen Iverson buff, and I was a Stephon Marbury buff at the time.
Oh, that's fun.
And the irony of that was that those two they came out in the same draft class, so
Mhm.
they would play, and I think me and you it must have been like the somewhere in November, our first year meeting each other, and we would sit up and watch the games and just like curse at each other the whole time. Anytime someone had made a move or
Mhm.
scored or did something, it was ridiculous because I remember people would just look at us and be like, "You guys all right?" I'm like, "Can you mind your business, please?" But it always triggered like a friendly rivalry, just anything we did. Like
Right.
I think people don't really understand like the dynamic with us. It was we played video games. It
That's
got
it.
to we got to the point where we would go on the basketball court and just make up bets to see who's going to buy drinks at the local bar on
Mhm.
Thursdays.
Oh,
Um,
shorties. I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did a lot. I mean, we did some other extracurricular activities, but we're not going to discuss that. So
Not a good idea.
yeah. But it was a fun time. Um, with all that being said, like you being how you are, and like you played sports. Do you have any regrets as far as not taking it past college, or were you fully content?
Oh no, man. I had big regrets. And I'm not a big regret person, but I do have regrets about sports. My
Mhm.
first regret with sports though is that I didn't keep playing football.
Okay,
I was actually better in football than I was in basketball.
same here. I think a lot of that was the urban myth, and I remember a lot of people in Kutztown like, why? It was like, Clem, why didn't you get your big ass to play on the football team?
Exactly.
I was like, nah, I didn't want to do the practice and
See, that
greasy.
was it. I wasn't built for that life. Like, I didn't want to practice in the summertime with them pads on. It's hot
No,
as hell.
yeah,
I
I
couldn't
didn't
do it.
want to do it. And like, what's interesting with it for me is that it wasn't that I was so much scared. I knew I was like, you know, I'm a little ahead of the curve. Someone 275 pounds storming down and trying to hit me, not so comfortable, right? And then people don't really understand when you wear a helmet, you really can't see in your peripheral.
Oh no,
You cannot
that's
see.
the thing. People be talking about, oh, I do this, I do that. How he dropped that ball, how he not
Yeah.
seeing. Man,
Mm-mm.
it's like you got blinders on.
Right.
It's different.
You see one way. That's why they always tell you in any kind of sport, run north and south.
Mhm.
Don't focus on left, right, left, right. If you start to do that, you're messing yourself up because when you get hit, you're gonna wonder why.
For sure.
Um, but yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
always it's always interesting because like me knowing you, I knew like after you played your last game, and I remember me and you sitting in your dorm room talking. And at that time, I knew you were like you hated weights. You were literally the person that was like allergic to weights. You hated it. You didn't want to touch it. You were like, please, can we just get on with this? Um, and you were just like, you just had it in your mind and you had this look and you had talked to me and we talked. I think it was about an hour or so we talked. and you were like, I got to make a choice. And then me and you, I remember us working out for about a couple weeks. I think a couple weeks to a month. It was towards the end of the school year or whatever. And you were lifting, and you were actually serious. And I was just like, okay. I was like, you sure this is what you want to do? And you're like, yeah, you know. So what in that point in time, because from what I knew of you, you didn't want to do it from everything when I met you. But at that point in time, something sparked from the last game of your season. You were just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. What was that about?
Well, it was, I don't know, because my 4 years in college playing ball, like it just came easy. It was just natural. Like I didn't. I mean, I hate to say it, but I was lazy. I didn't really practice. I didn't work out. I was just there for the games, and it was just laziness. That's one of my biggest regrets. Is just not working at the craft hard enough. You know what I mean? Just not putting in that extra work. You know, putting up shots, getting in the gym after practice, going to the weight room, going swimming when the team went swimming, had swimming workouts. But I don't know what changed. I think what changed was when the season was over, I got an email from the Westchester coach talking about, you know what, I'm putting a team together. We're going to go overseas. We're going to play overseas guys, and then hopefully you guys get offered contracts based on that. And to be honest, I never thought about playing after college while I was there, because I was just like, you know what, I'm here. I'm getting education. I'm able to play ball, and when it's over, it's over.
Right.
So when I got that email, I was like, maybe I can keep playing. You know what I mean? So that's when we had that conversation. And, you know, I started working out. I started taking things more serious. Unfortunately, that never panned out. We never ended up going over. Something happened. I don't even remember all the logistics, but something happened. We didn't take a team over there. What was funny is I did get offered a contract to play in Argentina, like a month after I graduated. And I was all set to go. I was ready to go. But the agent was telling me that I had to go by myself for the first 6 months. So I couldn't take my son, who was only like 2 years old, and his mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not leaving him. He's only 2 years old. So ended up not taking that contract. And that was it.
Right.
Never looked back. That was the end of ball for me.
It's unfortunate because I knew, like you said, once we had that conversation, I just saw that spark, and I knew like something had changed in you, where like it was the first time you were motivated to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that, you know what, you can just go over there, play ball, and get paid. That sounds better than getting a job.
No.
Like, let me start putting in some work and see where this actually takes me.
Right.
You know.
You know what's funny, and I never told a lot of people, is that like I graduated the year before you guys. So when I graduated, I came home for like a hot couple weeks because you and Al Brown, I remember us going into the gym and shooting. And I remember like taking the opportunity to do it. So there was a travel team that I played for back here in New York. And I was able to garner a contract for the Netherlands. And not a lot of people knew that. So I went to the Netherlands for about a year or so and played over there. I played in the Amstel Stadium when they initially had built that stadium.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously overseas, basketball is not the primary. Soccer is the primary sport.
Sure.
So that kind of like ballooned in itself, and the sponsorship and the club team kind of folded. So I was forced to come back and, you know, find a job just like anybody else.
Right.
But, you know, I say that to say this. I took the opportunity because, you know, everything that we went through, you know, just as friends and stuff, we all motivated each other in some fashion, some way, like whether it was direct or indirect. I definitely enjoyed the conversations. I enjoyed the challenges that we challenged each other. I enjoyed, you know, just the spirit of it all, because, you know, in essence, we looked after each other. When I left, I don't know what you guys went to go do, because I heard like you guys were over there. Yeah, I was over there on some BS. So I don't know but that was about when I left. But when I was around, I made sure you guys were good.
Mm-hmm.
And especially you, I always kept my eye. I was
Oh,
anytime
for
something
sure,
was
man.
going on.
There were many nights where
Oh yeah.
you weren't there. I don't know what would have happened.
Oh yeah. I just told people, I was like, nah, don't try him.
Yeah,
Like,
no, you got me out of a lot of bad situations
yeah.
for sure, with
But
both males and females.
yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, talk about, you know, like your folks, you have mentioned that, they have a great marriage. You said 40 years, over 40 years now. Um, when you see them now being an established man, what is your viewership of them?
It's like it's. I don't know. I'm always in awe because being married for what 12 years now.
Mm.
Yeah, 12 years. Ooh.
Yo, don't forget, please.
I got a tattoo right on my finger.
Okay, good. I can tell you it was in 2010 because I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. 13 years in June.
Okay.
But yeah, being married 12 years, seeing that they've been married for 40 plus years, knowing how hard marriage is,
Hmm.
you just got to look at it in awe because you're not supposed to be able to handle one person
Hmm.
for that long of a time period. It's just really hard. And the fact that they still go out, they still take vacations together,
Right.
they still laugh, they still joke, they still argue, they still curse at each other. But at the end of the day, they still together.
Yeah.
And like I keep saying, that's the goal. That's the main goal. Ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
Right. So in translation, when you see you and your wife and how you guys view and the dynamic that you guys have, what is something that you take away and you apply to your marriage or your relationship with your wife?
Oh man, just realizing that we're not always going to see eye to eye.
Mhm.
There's going to be arguments. There's going to be down times. But you can't let that force you to forget about all the good shit that's happening, within your marriage.
Right.
Um, there's always been more good times than bad times,
Hmm.
and it's important to keep pushing those good times to the forefront and not harping on a bad time that you're currently engaging in with your wife or your husband. And that's just seemed to work for us. We don't always see eye to eye, especially with kids. I was raised completely different than how she was raised.
Right.
Growing up in a black household, she grew up in a white household.
Hmm.
Nothing is the same. Absolutely nothing. We discipline our kids differently. We talk to our kids differently.
Right.
So we don't always see eye to eye with that. But at the end of the day, we know how we want our kids to act in public and how we want them to treat people and treat each other. So that's a commonality that we have, and that's what we focus on.
No, awesome. How you move a fair amount. What do you test at, or what do you which country or which spot do you think has been your best or favorite, and which one has been your
Ooh,
least?
living or traveling?
Either or.
So
Well,
living,
I would say, yeah,
I'll do
living.
both. I'll do both.
Okay.
Living, for me, living, I love China.
Okay.
I love China, and let me tell you why. They love black people over there. Listen, I got treated like a superstar. They thought I was in the NBA when I was over there.
Oh, nice.
So I was getting let in the clubs. They was putting us in VIP. They was giving us free drinks.
Hmm.
Um, they do stare. They
Hmm.
stare a lot. They used to rub my hair, and I had a woman on the train rub my beard. I'm like, what is going on? But China was definitely my favorite place. It was just so much to do.
Right.
A great travel hub. We traveled all over Asia from China.
Hmm.
People were great, treated you well. Um, and this was kind of like at the height of like all that like racism starting to hit its peak.
Right.
Um, so it was none of that. It was just easy. We were just looked at as Americans, not black or white,
Right.
which was dope. So China was probably my favorite place to live. Traveling, Bali for sure. It's just
Nice.
something about Bali. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. It was just serene and peaceful, and the weather was great.
Mhm.
Um, it was just something about Bali. That's my plan to retire and live in Bali.
In Bali, nice. Okay, so on the flip side, your least favorite.
Where I'm at right now, Guatemala.
You want to expand on that?
I'm not enjoying it, man. Pay is not great.
Okay.
The travel opportunities and the saving potential is not what we're used to. We've been spoiled. We've been absolutely spoiled these last 8 or 9 years. But outside the school, in other countries we've lived and traveled,
Mhm.
majority of the people out in the public, they can speak English.
Right.
That is not the case here.
Mm.
If you don't know Spanish, you'll have a hard time getting around. Luckily for me, my Spanish is okay. I can understand and comprehend a little bit.
Mhm.
My wife is not as lucky. She really struggles.
Okay.
But yeah, the food here is not great. I mean, it's not much going on here, man. Ain't much to do other than. And I took this job because it was closer to the States. And my
Okay.
son was in senior high school last year, so I
Mhm.
got to go back and forth to a lot of his games and stuff like that. So that's why I
Mhm.
took this job. But yeah, after this contract is up, I'm out of
Mhm.
here.
Do
Sure.
you anticipate you moving back to the States at any point in time?
You know what we talked about? We just talked about this last night.
Mhm.
Um, you never know. You just keep your options open. Just keep your options open. Coming back to the States wouldn't be my first choice, to be honest with you.
Uh, I don't
Um,
blame you.
it would not be my first choice.
Mhm.
Honestly, my first choice would be Southeast Asia.
Okay.
But we'd also like to go to Africa and live in Africa somewhere.
Good.
Wow.
Make sure you go to Ghana.
You
You'll
know what?
definitely love it.
That's on our list. That's on our list. That's
Yeah, I
definitely.
was there. I was there in winter 2021. So
Hmm.
it's different. I
Hmm.
think what people view, obviously, social media outlets and things like that, they see the
Yeah.
glitz and glamour, but like in
It's
all
different.
places,
Yeah, it's
it's
not.
two. Yeah, they have
Yeah,
two sides.
it's two sides. Yeah, it's this little bubble that the tourists and all that stuff
Right.
engage in and experience. But then there's the other side. I mean, these
Hmm.
countries I've lived in, I mean, I've experienced both sides. The touristy areas where we live. I mean,
Hmm.
we live in a big. I don't even know how many rooms this house has. What I'm living in, it has like 6 or 7 bedrooms. We don't even
Oh,
use them.
nice. Mm,
But yeah, we got a live-in housekeeper. So my
okay.
wife, she doesn't have to cook, clean, laundry, nothing. Um, so yeah, we've been spoiled, man. That's another reason why I'm not thinking about coming back to the States. I can't afford that in the States.
Yeah, it's a pretty penny, and obviously, if you've been paying attention to news outlets, it ain't great here. It
Mm-mm.
ain't. It's a lot of nonsense going on, more than we care to explain.
Yeah,
But
for sure. And I come home. I mean, we come home every summer.
mhm,
So we get a little month and a half, 2 month fix of the States in, and trust me, by that 2 months, we ready to get the hell up out of there and
right.
get back on the road.
So, for you being in the educational system, I know it's a hot topic for you and something dear and close to you. The dynamics, you've obviously taught in plenty of places,
Mhm.
the United States, obviously, where you were born and grew up, and
Mhm.
honed your skills, and all these other areas. What is one mainstay that kind of resonates with you?
About education.
Education, correct?
Oh, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I feel like America's doing it all wrong.
Mm. You care
They're
to
doing it
explain?
wrong. They're doing it wrong. Their whole focus is, state testing and mandated testing, and they're not focused on the learning.
Hmm.
They're not focused on the process.
Hmm.
They're not focused on the kids and what's in the best interest.
Right.
It's about state test scores and um, being able to bring in the most money from the government based on these state test scores.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, it's there's no autonomy for teachers in the states, just none. I mean, they give you a curriculum, you have to follow it to the T. You can't deviate from it.
Hmm.
Um, and overseas, I mean, you can, as long as you follow the curriculum and meet those standards, you can do whatever you want in your classroom.
Right.
There's no state testing. There's no high demands to meet. You can just focus on what's in the best interest of kids and how they learn and the process and just enjoying, being with the kids in the school.
Right.
And not being, I mean, my stress level is way low teaching overseas compared to how it was in the States.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. I remember me and you talked about, especially after an episode what me and the fellas had did previously, and you had mentioned of being on it, and you could have expressed how you felt because you are in like the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think what's so challenging here, and when we see it, is that like you know, there's no the respect level of some of these kids, and how their upbringing. We get people are busy, like our parents are busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't act like that. I just don't really understand where the disconnect is. I don't.
It's funny. I can tell you where the disconnect is. It's funny you bring that up.
Mhm.
Every country I've been in, the focus has been on education. Where in the States, the focus is sports, is entertainment,
Mhm.
is all these other avenues to, become a millionaire.
Right.
And they don't look at education as a path to earn you a great income. But
Right.
in all these other countries, their main focus is education. And it starts at home. And you have meetings with these parents,
Mhm.
and they're constantly talking about constantly instilling my child to, respect adults, respect teachers. The
Mhm.
teacher's always right. And in the States, there was none of that.
Right.
You would have a meeting with a parent, and the parent is yelling at you, blaming you, when their kid is the one who didn't do the work.
It's terrible.
So it starts at home. It starts at home. I
Yeah.
mean, it starts with the parents. They got to instill that in their kids, and they're not doing it in the States like they are abroad.
You're 100% right. And the numbers show it. I think a lot of it has to do with, and you hit it right on the head, like people are stuck being or trying to raise influencers.
Mm-hmm.
Social media has definitely have a strong hold on what a lot of these kids, even grown-ups, do as a way of life. I think, we're so much entangled in what someone else is doing. Like someone is, they're on a beach or they're eating or drinking coffee, like anything can be made content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that takes away from like the everyday feel. But with education, the reason why I raised it is because, like, again, you've seen both sides, and it's always interesting that you see the behavior and the dynamics, and then for you, a person who's overseas currently and have moved around and kind of seen different cultures and stuff like that, they don't look at you know social media the way we do in the States, do they?
No, no,
Yeah.
it's just not the same.
Yeah, I didn't think I didn't think so.
It's just not the same. For in my experience anyway,
Mhm.
it's just purely entertainment.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, um, not too much effort is put into it.
Mhm.
Not too much thought is put into it. It's just merely entertainment, and the actual purpose of social media.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that everything in the States is all bad with education.
Mhm.
It's just, I mean, the majority is severely flawed.
Yeah. No, that I agree with you.
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna hit some hot questions. My first question to you is, what is, and I think you touched on it already, but we're gonna repeat it. What is a regret that sticks, that kind of jabs at you to this day?
That goes back to the basketball thing, man. Just not putting in work,
Yeah.
just not taking it serious. I I still play in all these leagues and all these different countries I go to,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh man, did you play professionally?" I'm like, "No." "Oh, you're so good." I'm like, "Yeah, compared to y'all, but
Yeah.
looking in the States, like this is a different. It's a different monster."
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret. Just not taking it serious. I had all the opportunity in the world, and I just didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah. Definitely a life lesson learned.
for sure.
What is something Jeff now at 40, right?
Hmm.
At 40 years old, what would you tell Jeff at 17, 18?
Whew, man, that's a lot of things I tell him. Ooh. Oh man, something I would tell my young self. Probably one of the biggest things would be, be more focused with, not more focused, but be more decisive with what you want to do with your life while you're young.
Mhm.
It took me a while, even out of college. I still didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
Um, I'm a career changer. I didn't start off in education. I mean, I went to school for sports management. I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do with that.
Mhm.
I just knew it was something I was interested in. It had something to do with sports. Um, but yeah, I would tell my younger self, just be more decisive in what you want to do with your life. I would definitely would have chose a different major that would have took me on a career path,
Mhm.
with more possibilities of financial gain. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Mhm.
And then my final question to you is, what is more impactful to you, love or respect?
Ooh. Oh, I don't know. That's a good one. Love or respect? You know what? I think it depends on who it's coming from.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In workplace, I mean, I don't really care if they love me, but I want that respect factor. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But at home and with family, I prefer, the love over the respect. You
Okay.
know, I feel like if they love me, there has to be some type of respect there. I don't think you can necessarily love somebody without respect them. You know
Of course. I mean, the dynamic of it is yes, two opposing emotions and
what
approaches, but they kind of hand in hand, right?
I mean? Hmm.
I think it's one of those things where, and I think you touched on it, who it's coming from,
Hmm.
how it's viewed, and how it's received, and the overall emphasis of how you said a lot of things as far as how you interact with people, whether it's your wife or just people on the surface, things
Right.
like that. It's you're almost, I wouldn't say a different person for, you present differently for everyone, but it's kind of that way, like the energy, right?
Absolutely. You got to. I mean, I'm completely different how I am at school
Hmm.
with teachers and students than how I am at home with my boys. I
Right.
mean, it's completely different. I mean,
Right.
and I feel like the most successful people are able to do that. They're able to adapt to different environments and situations and different people.
100%.
I think that's important about growing up and becoming an adult.
No, definitely true. And it's funny because at this stage in life, not a lot of people can do that balancing act, and it shows. Um,
Yeah,
so,
I pride myself in that because coming from where I came from, my wife coming from where she came from,
mhm,
it took me a good couple of years to adjust to her environment and her surroundings and the people she grew up with, and just me having that ability to adapt to white people who weren't necessarily used to being around black people.
right,
Um, so I pride myself in that.
awesome. So my guy,
Mhm.
just provide whatever closing statements you have. It's always love when me and you link up, and one day either I fly out there or I'll meet you on the flip side on the states. But give me some closing statements.
Yeah, no, man, no, I don't really have no closing statements. Just I appreciate you, having me on here to do this.
Mm,
I've been listening to your podcast, and you got some great content on there. Um, I enjoyed the one with the fellas when you were talking about the whole school system and all that.
mhm,
But I also enjoyed that episode with the two ladies.
mhm.
Um, I think they were like small business owners.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, you got some good content. Keep it moving. Just keep it
I'm, I'm,
moving.
I'm trying. I'm trying to move the train. I'm trying to move the needle at best. Um, for me, the closing statement that I have is that a lot of people view men, primarily black men, as like, aggressors. We don't know how to communicate. We're like flawed in our own ways, blah, 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 blah. But the whole purpose of this interview between me and Jeff is to illustrate that we do not only talk about just like the signature stuff, like, the sports, music, or money.
Mhm.
We're much more than that. We're able to discuss life lessons. We're able to discuss what paths our lives have, we've kind of navigated through life, whether it be family, relationships, professions, a whole host of things. I think a lot of times you don't want to be placed in a position where, you're uncomfortable. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of our people are uncomfortable. They can't really express themselves. Why is that? I have no idea. But they have, a plethora of opportunities too. What you guys have witnessed here are two men. Not only that we're friends, and I view him much more than my friend. We've known each other for 20 plus years. He's damn near my brother. And I give him a lot of respect because he's told you from his own mouth, this is not the path that he chose. This is not the same guy he was 20 years ago. But he's groomed himself. He's a guy that's found his way. He's a father. He's a husband. He's just an all around great individual. And for that, I respect him. I love him. And, he's forever my brother. He's always going to be my day one. So, with that being said, that wraps up episode 12. Please like, share, subscribe. And Jeff, do you have anything to plug or are you good?
No, no plug here, man. Just appreciate it, man. It's all love. I appreciate
My,
it.
much appreciated. Thank you, my guy. Thank you. And that's it, people.